In 1895, scientists discovered something that could see through human flesh. They had no idea it was slowly killing them. When X-rays were first invented, early researchers would test the machines by placing their hands directly in the beam. They watched in amazement as their bones appeared on glowing screens. Within months, their skin began peeling off in sheets. Clarence Daly, Thomas Edison's assistant, was one of the first to experiment with X-rays. He would stick his hands into the radiation beam daily, fascinated by the ghostly images of his skeleton. Soon, his hair fell out. His fingers developed horrific ulcers that wouldn't heal. The radiation was eating through his flesh from the inside. Doctors amputated his arms piece by piece, but it was too late. The poison had spread throughout his body. Daly died in agony in 1904, becoming the first known X-ray fatality. Dozens of pioneer radiologists suffered similar fates. Some developed cancers so severe their bones literally glowed in the dark. These scientists unknowingly sacrificed themselves to advance medicine, dying from their own revolutionary discovery. A group of Soviet prisoners led by Alexander Pechersky planned the unthinkable, a mass breakout from a death camp the Nazis called Sobibor escape-proof. 250,000 people were murdered there in just 18 months. Most prisoners were dead within hours of arrival. But on October 14, 1943, something impossible happened. A group of Soviet prisoners led by Alexander Pechersky planned the unthinkable, a mass breakout from a death camp. They spent weeks preparing in secret, stealing knives and axes from the workshop, learning guard routines, waiting for the perfect moment. At 4 in the afternoon, they struck. One by one, they lured SS officers into isolated areas, killed them silently with stolen tools. Then they cut the phone lines and attacked the remaining guards. 600 prisoners. 300 escaped into the Polish forest during the chaos. Nazi forces hunted them with dogs and aircraft. Most were recaptured or killed within days. Only 50 survived the war. But their uprising was so devastating that the Nazis immediately demolished the entire camp. The commandant was found dead in his office. They plowed the site under and planted trees to erase what happened there. Did you know the US military once produced enough anthrax to kill every person on Earth? From 1943 to 1969, a secret program operated at Fort Detrick, Maryland. Scientists weaponized deadly diseases, anthrax, smallpox, things that could wipe out entire cities. They tested these biological weapons on unwitting victims, prison inmates, mental patients, people who had no idea what was being done to them. Massive fermentation tanks stored enough lethal agents to end humanity. Then, researchers started dying from mysterious illnesses, lab accidents. The military covered it all up. Dr. Frank Olson, a biochemist working on the program, began questioning the ethics of their work. Days later, he allegedly jumped from a hotel window. Suicide, they said. But declassified documents tell a different story. CIA operatives may have murdered him to keep him quiet. When the program was exposed, officials claimed it ended. But conspiracy theories persist. Underground facilities, continued research. Some even link Fort Detrick to later anthrax attacks. The question remains, did America's biological weapons program ever really stop? In 2006, a former Russian spy sat down for afternoon tea at a London hotel. Within hours, he was dying from the inside out. Alexander Litvinenko had no idea his cup contained polonium-210, one of the most lethal substances on Earth. Just 1 gram could kill 50 million people. His hair began falling out in clumps. His organs started shutting down one by one. But even as death consumed him, Litvinenko pointed his finger at Vladimir Putin. British investigators followed a trail of radiation across London. Hotels, restaurants, airplanes. Everywhere the assassins had been glowed with deadly contamination. The polonium could only come from one place, Russian nuclear facilities. This wasn't just murder. This was a state-sponsored execution on British soil. For 3 agonizing weeks, Litvinenko testified from his hospital bed, his body destroyed by invisible poison while his mind stayed sharp enough to name his killers. The men who poisoned him. Safe in Russia. Protected by the very government that sent them. Some secrets are worth killing for, and some people pay the ultimate price for knowing them. Did you know that America secretly hired over 1,600 Nazi war criminals after World War II? In 1945, as Hitler's regime crumbled, the US military launched Operation Paperclip. They weren't hunting Nazis, they were recruiting them. Wernher von Braun used slave labor to build rockets that killed thousands of innocent people. America made him the father of NASA. Kurt Blome conducted horrific biological experiments on concentration camp prisoners. The US hired him to develop chemical weapons. President Truman initially said no, but Cold War paranoia changed everything. US intelligence created fake biographies. They erased Nazi pasts. They gave war criminals new identities and comfortable American lives. While their victims' families never saw justice, these monsters worked on classified projects for decades. Their crimes hidden behind government secrecy. The moral compromise was staggering. America chose scientific advancement over human decency. Operation Paperclip helped win the space race. But at what cost? The same hands that built concentration camp rockets eventually put Americans on the moon. Some victories come with a price too dark to calculate. For 13 years, Robert Hansen was just a quiet baker in Anchorage. He made pastries for local shops. He coached youth hockey. He had a wife and kids. But Hansen was living a double life. He was kidnapping women and flying them to remote parts of Alaska in his private plane. Then, he would release them naked into the frozen wilderness and hunt them like animals. Hansen gave his victims a head start before tracking them down with a hunting rifle and a pack of dogs. He treated human murder like trophy hunting, keeping a detailed map of where he buried each body. When women tried to report him, police didn't believe them. Hansen seemed too ordinary, too normal. A stuttering baker who couldn't hurt a fly. His own family had no idea he was using their cabin as a torture site. When investigators finally caught him in 1983, Hansen confessed to killing 17 women, but they believed the real number was over 30. He had turned Alaska's vast wilderness into his personal killing ground. Between 1936 and 1938, Stalin's secret police received a chilling order: kill 750,000 Soviet citizens. But this wasn't random violence. This was bureaucracy turned into mass murder. Each region got a quota, a specific number of people to arrest and execute. Farmers, teachers, factory workers, anyone could be labeled an enemy. NKVD operatives worked in government building basements, shooting victims in the head at precisely timed intervals. They used specialized revolvers and kept doctors nearby to confirm each death. The bodies were loaded into windowless trucks and driven to mass graves dug by prisoners. Those prisoners were then shot to eliminate witnesses. Officers received bonuses for exceeding their killing quotas. Mass murder became a competition. Families searching for missing relatives were told their loved ones received 10 years without right of correspondence. It was a lie, a euphemism meaning they were already dead and buried in unmarked graves scattered across the Soviet Union. In just 2 years, Stalin's quota system murdered 750,000 people with industrial efficiency.